Here's the original part of the surround that goes at an angle around this other part of the surround here. And that's where the faucet for the bathtub is located. There was no obvious access to get to that faucet, so at one point somebody had cut a hole in that and then kind of crudely patched it with a piece of plastic. But I'll show you what I found here. Here I've got the bathroom cabinet about ready to come out, and if you think you're gonna take this out in one piece, you need to change your plans, because this is built piece by piece into the unit, and then the plumbing is snaked through there and so on and so forth. Really the only way to get it out of there is to semi-destroy it. But here's what I wanted to show you. The access to that faucet is actually underneath the sink area in the bathroom. You've got clear access to go right in where that faucet is. So they just didn't look quite hard enough. So I'll have to add a wall in here at some point, and I'll look and see if this same access will work, then that's fine. I'll leave that alone. If not, I may put another little access panel here, just a little snap-in plastic access panel. Same with the water heater. I will have an access panel here, hopefully just a little pop-out plastic one, where I can get in and operate my bypass valves for the water heater, which I should be able to put right back there. And if I ever need to disconnect the water heater, that'll also be an easy place to do that. And down below the sink area there, you can see some more of their plumbing, and I just honestly don't know what they were thinking when they did some of this, but that line would be very hard to drain. Even with air pressure, you might not get all the water out of there. So, of course, that's all coming out anyway, but see, they've made some loops in there that it just doesn't really work. You want a constant flow from the high end of your system down to the low end drain valve of the system. So that'll all be taken care of. We're just all going to be rerunning PEX. Okay, so now that I've gotten this far, I know this wood all in here is all rotten. I can push it down with my foot. In order to get to good wood, I'm going to have to get back in underneath the tub. So this little wall here is going to have to come out for sure. Temporarily, it may get rebuilt as something different, or it may get put back in. But in order to get that out, I've got to get these screws out. If I can find my hand here, coming through from the other side of this. So medicine cabinet's got to come out next, and then I'll take this wall out, and then I'll get this floor pulled back so I can see what I'm dealing with here and figure out what I need to replace. Okay, so I've got these screws out of there. Took the medicine cabinet out, got the screws from back here. But this is still not going to come out because it's wedged in here, over here, on this other end. So that's this door frame is in the way. So I've got that unscrewed, but I can't get that out because this has to, it's got a ridge around all the way around it where it sets over the wall on both sides. So the only way to get it out of there is to fold this in a little bit, drop the top down enough to get it out of there. Problem with that is the flooring is in the way. So I've got to take the flooring out. Luckily, I was going to do all that anyway because of this mess here. I've got to get this carpet up and see what they got going here. There's going to be some flooring that has to be replaced there. I don't know what is up with this hardwood flooring here. What I'm going to have to do there. I may have to put plywood down. I'm not sure. So anyway, I'll rip the flooring up enough to get this frame out of here, and then I'll take all that flooring up and see what I got going there, and get on down the road here. Okay, so I wasn't sure how those lines got over to the kitchen sink, but it's really pretty simple. You can see where they did their connection to the old system here before with some shark bite fittings down this groove. And those hoses just run, you can get access to it underneath that drawer there, and they're just pulled all the way through underneath. You can also see them from this drawer here, and they just pull into the bottom of the sink there, so that's absolutely no problem. So my next job will be to pull the toilet flange, cut all the white pipe there out, take the support for the bathtub out temporarily, and get this whole area cleaned up and take up all that bad wood, get it back to good wood, and then get that replaced. Okay, so I was just looking at these pipes that run back to the water pump area back there where it picks up the cold water, and it will be hot water also. Right now the hot water is being picked up right here and hooking right to the water heater, but we're going to change that. And those there actually run through a little culvert over here in the bedroom, right by the side of the wall. So I'll have to take that up there and get that out of the way in order to run those pipes, because they're crammed in there, and I need to run a lot more lines because I'm running a manifold and home run to each fixture. So I'll have to take that up and route my PEX through there. Okay, there's the view from in the bedroom after we got this cover taken off there, and that's where it goes down into where it picks up the water. So, and you can see this is actually wet in here too. So I don't know, once I get this carpet ripped up, we'll see what this wood looks like in here. There may be more wood to replace. If so, it means I'm going to have to probably take out this wall here. So I'm hoping I don't have to do that, but we shall see. Okay, we're getting ready to pull these captain chairs out of here, and then we'll be pulling the couch and the dinette out of here. That dinette's been fixed so it doesn't fold down into a bed anymore. So I think what we're going to do is just unfix that and make that so where that works, and probably reupholster those, and probably reupholster that and put a mattress on it. Not sure on that yet. These chairs are in pretty good shape, so we probably won't reupholster them, but I need to get them out of the way so I can do this flooring. And these are through bolted. I wasn't sure how they were attached, but they're through bolted. You got 4 bolts in each, I don't even know if that's coming out, but you got 4 bolts in each base, and they go through to the bottom with a nut and a plate on there. So I'll have to hook a wrench in here where it can't spin around, and then go underneath with an impact and a long extension for some of them, and get those off. So we'll get those pulled out. My plumbing, initially I thought I was going to put my PEX manifolds, or PEX manifold, I thought I was just going to use one manifold at first, but they don't make one. The smallest one they make, I think, is like 14 quart or something like that, and I only need 7 really. So originally I thought that manifold was going to go out here in this service bay, but there's several problems with that. That's where I have the room to put it. That would be easy to put back here. It'd be real nice to have it back here, but I'd be running 7 or 8 hoses up through here and into the other area by the water heater up there, and then onto the fixtures, and that would be an extra about 10 feet or so for the hot water to run, which isn't good. It would take a lot longer to get hot water. You'd waste a lot of your water in your tank. So Now what I'm going to do, I believe, is I'm going to use some PEX mini manifolds, which you can get those with 4 ports. And I'll use 2 of those. And I'll put those in the bathroom next to where the water heater is here. The water heater's here, cabinets over here. Probably will have to put them in this cabinet area. I'm hoping I can keep it down kind of low, so I'll still have some sort of a cabinet there. We'll just have to see how that goes. I'm also going to have an access panel on the back of that water heater area, which apparently there wasn't before. Looking at pictures of other Southwinds, there is no access panel there. So, but I'm going to have an access panel, and I'm going to put in a bypass valve setup there. Looks like originally the bypass valve was a single handle in the service bay that you used. So I'm going to put in the regular two handle bypass setup right behind the water heater, which also makes it handy if you have to unhook your water heater. You can just do it right there and pull the water heater out easily. Other problem I've got is the trap for the new tub is going to be where that circle I have drawn on the floor is. And you can see where the old trap is. And there's a little metal pan underneath that trap that gives it enough room for the trap to hang there. And obviously that trap won't reach where it needs to go. So I've got to get underneath. There's that little square pan that you can see there, and then underneath that there's another pan, longer pan. And basically what they are is a shield from the tire, you know, keep it from throwing rocks and breaking your plumbing or whatever. So both of those pans will unscrew. I'll have to recut that floor out and move the pans over. And it looks like I've got plenty of room to do that. I may have to put a little piece of sheet metal or something over part of that hole if it doesn't cover it up. So I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But first things first, right now, I need to get all this stuff torn out of this interior so I can do my floors, make sure I don't have any other bad wood that needs to be replaced. And then before I do the floors, I'll get the subfloor all cleaned up. Before I do the floors, we'll do whatever painting we're going to do in here, whatever we're going to do to the cabinets. I'll get the blinds all taken down, and all that. And then once all that painting is done, then I can put my floor in, and then I can start going back with everything. So that's where we're at right now. So there's the setup for taking out the captain's chairs. You just have to cut the carpet out of the way. Of course, we're doing flooring anyway, so it doesn't matter. Set the wrench in there. When I get on the impact down below, that wrench will swing against the metal stand there and keep it from turning. And should make it into a one-man job. So we'll give that a shot. Okay, so we got the captain's chairs out. Turned out to be a two-person job. I had my wife hold the wrench on top while I zipped the nuts off with an air gun down below. The wrench kept jumping off, so it just didn't work the other way. Anyway, got all those out. Got the couch out, which was just a matter of unbolting it from the floor, 4 bolts, and then taking the couch apart, getting it out the door. Got the dinette out, which was a little more involved. They always seem like they always have to put some little sneaky bolts into the wall, which I'm not sure why they even do that. It's not holding anything. But anyway, that's out of there. Now we've got to decide what we're going to do for upholstery on those or replace them. I got a feeling we're just going to replace everything. It's just going to be easier to get a match on everything, and then put our wood look floors in. Not sure if that's going to be carpet or wood look floor up here. Haven't made up my mind. I'm going to wait until I get that carpet out of there and see how it's put on there. I'm hoping that it's got a bolt-on edge underneath here that allows you to pull the carpet back, take the bolt-on edge off, and then put the bolt-on edge, back on with the new whatever flooring you put on there. And I'm hoping both sides are that way, because you've got carpet that goes underneath there, and otherwise it's going to be pretty hard to get that carpet out of there. But we will see what they decided to do, and try to get all this flooring out of here tomorrow, and then attack the blinds and get those out of there. I took that one off in order to get the dinette out, and just keep going on our destruction here. So looks like this carpet only goes under inch and a half, something like that, and it's just hooked into same as this, just like a little tangs that they've got punched out of the metal, but it looks like it's punched out of the actual bottom of the slide. So the way I'm getting that off of there is just shoving this flat bar under there to knock it off of those pins, and it comes right out. Now I may have to get into there and grind off those little nubs that I can feel under there. If I go with all vinyl flooring, I'll have to bring the slide in when I get all this carpet out of here and see if this is ever going to interfere with that flooring. I may have to cut that off, or I may have to put a piece of felt under here possibly. So that'll be once I get all this carpeting out of here, we'll check that out and see what we've got to do there. Okay, so that worked pretty well on that. Now I got to figure that this is attached to the floor with probably a regular carpet strip, which means I need to get underneath the carpet to get to that strip and pop it up and get this carpet out. So my plan is to cut this off along here, just like I did with the other one, get rid of the bulk of the carpet, and then go underneath and pop that carpet strip off of there. And we'll see how that works. Okay, yeah, it worked pretty well on this side up here for the couch. I used that little flat pry bar, went in there and popped it right out, no problem. Get down here, then it's a little bit too long of a reach for that pry bar, so I ended up using that long screwdriver, and it still just popped out pretty easy. So that all came out pretty easy. And I'm learning as I go here. I've got, I think it's like 1.25 inches or something like that, gap there between the bottom of the top floor and the top of the bottom floor, which is good in a way. It gives me plenty of room to do my vinyl plank flooring. And I think I'm going to end up going carpet on the top of that. If I go vinyl plank, I'll have to put a wood strip down along the edge, and I will have to extend that down past a little bit and put a piece of felt on the bottom of it, because this slide, when it comes in, once it gets to a certain point, it wants to rock in, and it kind of puts a stress on the mechanism if it doesn't have something to stop it. It used to stop against the carpet. So I can, even if I put carpet on there, I'm going to have to make a wood strip to have something to put the carpet on, and then screw that strip to the side after the carpet is attached, and I'll have to make that strip hang down a little bit because the gap is further than it was, because the vinyl plank will be thinner than the carpet was, so it'll have to have a little extra extension down on that. But I think I'm going to go carpet up there probably. This area up here will have to be carpeted, probably just back to the back of the the captain chair there all the way across, and of course the doghouse has to be carpeted because you've got this deal here sticking up, which obviously you can't run vinyl plank across that, so we'll just carpet that whole front. I was kind of thinking about doing that anyway. Figured I probably would have to do that. So that'll be all carpet up here, and I think probably carpet over here. And I peeled that carpet off of that doghouse there, and I've got a pretty good pattern. So if I just cut that same pattern and leave a little wiggle room on it, I should be good on that. I drilled out the latches because they went through the carpet, so that's how they'll have to go back. And those are the latches for each side there, and then I'll drill out those hinges just on the lid side there. The other side is just, the carpet is just cut into it, so that should be the way I go back with it. And that carpet should be pretty straightforward, shouldn't be any big deal. I did learn something about ordering furniture. Probably a good idea if you're going to do a RV rental to get your furniture ordered a little ahead of time, because you know, we decided on some furniture that we wanted, and then we found out that it was like a 6-month lead time on it. So we've found some other stuff that we're going to use, and I think we'll be pretty happy with it. The only thing is we're not going to be getting the captain's chairs. I'm just going to be putting some seat covers on there from Amazon for now anyway. I could order the captain's chairs later, but the captain's chairs, I couldn't find anything that I could get right away, and I've got some camping trips coming up, so we're just going to put some seat covers on those for now. And we've got a new pull-out couch coming, which I think that'll work good. It gives you more or less a full-size bed, much larger than like a jackknife sofa. So we'll get some video of that when we get in here. And then some, we're going to reuse our table, just put a new bracket on the wall, and I ordered new benches. So we should have all that stuff coming in fairly soon. Okay, so we got all the carpet out of the bedroom, off the walls, out from around the bed. This floor I still have to tear up and replace. Down the bare floor there, I've got to get, we've got all the carpet out of the front here, off the slide. I still need to remove this hardwood section, but it looks like that's going to come right out if I just cut along the cabinet wall there. I think that's all going to come out as one piece. So we'll try that and see how it works. So I'm using my DeWalt multi-tool there to make the cut along the cabinet, and I'm inserting some 2x4s along the other edge here so I can tell when I pop through, and it looks like it's going to work out real good. Okay, and there it is all cut out. You can see it's just like a plywood product, just one sheet. Just looks like a hardwood floor. Okay, well, removing this bathroom floor is proving to be a little more difficult than I anticipated, although I figured it would probably be kind of tough. But it's just, I'm having to just break out little pieces at a time. Seems to be glued to the foam underneath it, as well as to the structural steel there. And then the other thing that I don't know what the heck it is under the, where the toilet bolt's on, there's a thick part here. But that extends, seemingly without a seam, all the way past this piece of steel over here. So I'm not sure what the heck they got going on there. I'm just gonna have to break this thing out one little piece at a time. I've got it cut over there, and I've got it cut along the doorway here. And once I get it out, I'll just have to figure out what I need to do to make it right. Got all my blinds removed, and I've got the rest of the floor cleaned up pretty good. So now it's time to finally go after that bathroom floor and see what I've got to do there. So what I'm doing to get this plywood up off this bathroom floor is I'm mostly using that little flat blade on the oscillating tool and getting as close as I can to the top of the foam. You can see it's going to have to be surface somehow, or I'm going to have to replace the foam, one of the two. But it's just coming up one little piece at a time. I get that under there, loosen it up, and then I knock my pry bar under there and pop off a little piece. So that's how it's going. And I don't know what's going to happen when we get to this thick part. We'll see in a minute. So as I zero in on the toilet flange, I realize this is not a separate piece of something under here. That's just the foam. It's turned black around the edge there for some unknown reason. And it has metal right on the bottom of it. It's not all that thick. Inch and a quarter, maybe, something like that, without measuring. And I see that metal on the bottom of it, they've cut here. So I'm going to have to cut all that foam out of there, patch that metal so it's got some strength, and put some new foam in there. There's my pile of stuff after chipping this thing out, and there's what I got underneath it. The aluminum sheet that this foam adheres to, and then the plywood adheres to the top of the foam. So, and that's all bent up and it's got foam under it. I'm going to have to cut that whole bent up section out of there. Try to find a piece of aluminum that I can securely attach to that other aluminum and some foam, and get this thing all glued back together and try to get it where it makes sense structurally. It's not going to be perfect, but should be able to make it work, I think. Okay, so we got that bent up cut piece cut out of there on that aluminum, and I've got a new piece of aluminum, same gauge as that. I'm going to rivet that in there, but I'm going to cut this foam out to include the whole toilet flange area, and I'll bring it to within a little bit of the wood there, and same on the other side. I don't want to have the overlap in the same exact place, so, but we'll replace a big piece of that foam in there with the foam board that I've got. Okay, so that floor is all glued and screwed on there. I'm going to have to put subfloor, or not subfloor, but underlayment, 1/5 inch plywood underlayment in here, because I've got these rivets that stick up here and there all throughout the motorhome. So I've got to cover those up so I can put my vinyl plank in. This particular one here is recessed, but that's the only one. All the rest of them stick up. So that'll solve that problem, and it'll also hopefully give a little more strength to this floor in here, because even with all that new stuff in there, it still has a little bit of flex in it, which I kind of figured it might. That's once you break that structure, the full sheets of plywood over the full sheets of foam, you're gonna have a hard time ever getting it back. So it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And also I've got some areas you can see on the level there that drops down pretty good there. It's a good 1/4 inch that drops off there. So I'm going to put some leveling compound in there before I put that subfloor plywood in there. And normally that subfloor plywood is stapled on with narrow crown staples, about a jillion of them. On this floor in here, I'm actually going to glue it too, because I want to try to get a little bit more rigidity out of it if I possibly can. So hopefully putting that underlayment in here will help this out just a little bit more. But I've got to put that filler in there, and also out here in the hallway, this undulates pretty severely where these two areas go across here. So I don't know if it was always like that, if that was caused by some previous repair. I don't really know. But at any rate, we'll get this leveling compound in there. It's probably going to take at least a couple coats to get that as straight as I can get it. And then we'll be ready to put the underlayment in. Okay, so there's the first coat of that on there. And the first thing I noticed is I probably bought way too much leveling compound. It's not going to take that much. Stuff goes a long ways. So I've got first coat on there and first coat on here. Have to wait for that to dry, and then we'll sand it off and give it another coat. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to finish pulling all the rest of my doors and drawers out of here and be that much closer to being ready to paint. Okay, so I finally got this underlayment going in. Got the bedroom tacked down. Bathroom's done. I did that with, put that down with white glue and staples. Used a whole bottle of white glue on it, glued both sides. And also weighted it down with some concrete blocks and stapled it real good with my 1/4 inch by 3/8 crown staples, or 1/4 inch crown by 3/8 long staples. That area that you see underneath the block there is an area that had the leveling compound on it. So I didn't want to drive staples through that. And of course it's out here too. So I've got it marked on my sheet here where to not drive staples, and that'll just be glued with that subfloor adhesive, and the rest of it will be stapled. So that should work out real good, and it's this is nice and dead level in here now, so it should be a good floor for the first time in who knows how many years. So anyway, onwards and upwards. Okay, so we finally got all the underlayment in. All looks good. I went ahead and my cracks are a little bit wide. I put some of that leveling compound in just to make sure everything was smooth and nothing would show. All looks real good. It's nice and flat, and should make for a good floor. Next step is to clean all these walls and cabinets and so on, and patch them and get ready to paint. So I've got my 409 there, and I've got my bed covered up with a tarp so it doesn't get messed up, because that mattress is heavy. I don't really want to carry it out of here. I've got this board that I've got my 409 and my water sitting on to just kind of steady it on the bed. And I know you probably think that's the hole I cut for a handle, so that board would be easy to carry, but that was actually my first iteration of the floor in here, and I cut the hole in the wrong place. So anyway, it's comes in handy for a little table, and I'll use the rest of that board for something else. Probably when I rebuild this cabinet in here, I may find some use for it in there. So it won't go to waste. Not at $60 a sheet for that 1/4 inch plywood. Okay, onwards and upwards. This little oscillating tool has been handy through this whole job. This is the first time I'm using this little sander, which has just a little hook loop type pads on it, so no adhesive required. And man, that thing works good. I've got all these little holes and stuff that I need to patch, so I want to sand those flat because they inevitably have a bump around the hole where the screw pulled out or whatever. And that just takes them down flat and nothing flat. They're just, I had one of these oscillating tools before, a cheap one. I actually used when I was building my house. I completely wore it out. And it got me almost all the way through the house, but it did finally fail where I couldn't wire it together anymore. And I went out and bought a better one because I liked the idea so much. I saw how handy it was. So I went out and got this DeWalt one, and this thing it's in a whole different realm than that cheapie. And it wasn't that bad. I think it was like 130 bucks or something like that. The cheap one was like 30 bucks. But man, it's worth it to pay a couple extra bucks because this thing is really handy. I've used it for all kinds of stuff. Okay, with my little oscillating tool, I've sanded these seams out. I think I can put a little either spackle on there or maybe even a little Bondo. I'm going to use Bondo to plug these bigger holes here on the side. Anyway, I think I can smooth those seams out where you won't be able to see them. The other issue I've got is a lot of areas, or a few areas anyway, that have got this contact paper that's just coming off. I actually bought some contact cement. I was thinking about spraying some of that and putting it back on, but I've got so many areas that it's too far gone. And this area over here, I just pulled that off of there and hit it with that little oscillating sander, or oscillating tool sander, and it's going to smooth right out. A little bit of spackle on there and some paint, you'll never see it. Or I think probably some Bondo. So I've got some big cracks here. I can tell with Bondo. Anyway, just a little TLC, and since we're going to paint these white anyway, I think she'll be just fine. Okay, so I got a couple things to fix in the bathroom area here. In the hall, I've got this hole here where he had those plumbing pipes coming out and going down into the floor, which we rectified that situation, but now I just have to plug the hole. So I'll take a hole saw and cut a piece of wood the right size and plug that up, glue it in there. And then over here is where they had their water line for the toilet coming out, and they just kind of hacked a big old hole in there. And there's a hole on the other side that's bigger yet, probably where they got in to do the work. At any rate, I've pre-cut a couple of panels, and I will trace around those, cut them out with my oscillating tool, and then I'll have to put 2x4 or possibly a couple of 2x4s in there to mount my drop-eared elbow there, hook my PEX pipe on and run it down around under the counter. So once it's all patched up and secure, then I can patch that with Bondo, just like I'm going to patch all my other little holes. And we should be just about ready to paint as soon as I finish sanding the wall. So I'm running my new toilet line, and I've screwed a 2x4 in there, and of course screwed that drop leg to the 2x4 with my nipple coming out. Got my line running over, and then I will glue, and since I now have a staple gun, I will glue and staple these backing plates in there, and then I can glue and staple my little patch panel on there. I'll do that on both sides. I've got backing for both sides, and it just goes to show you can't these tools that you buy, you just keep on using them. You find uses. When you have the tool, you'll find new uses for it. My Craig jig is what I use to bolt that 2x4 down with, and really just nothing else would work as good. So that's glued and screwed down, and that's not going anywhere. That Craig jig, when I bought it, I thought I'd probably never use the thing again, and I use it all the time. I think it's going to be the same way with my little stapler. It's definitely that way with my little oscillating tool. I absolutely love that thing. And so yeah, just keep buying tools. Okay, so there we get that all patched in there. I use Bondo on my big cracks and fill-ins and so on and so forth. And just some spackling compound on these areas where the paper had peeled off part way. I peeled it off where it was solid again, and then use spackling compound to merge the two surfaces, and that seemed to work real good. I did the same thing on these areas where they had the little overlapping strips on the wallpaper, and you know where I did that, really it's so you got the primer on this right here, you can't even see that strip, which surprises me. But anyway, she's getting the primer going on, and I think it's going to work out real well. So another few hours of this stuff and we'll have that much done. This is that area where we had to take out that TV cabinet. You can still see the outline on the ceiling. The thing was huge. Of course, it was a CRT TV, but it back in '98, and you couldn't hardly walk into this bedroom without, you had to duck in order to get in. So that was a glad thing to be rid of. Now I had the bolts coming through from the other side, screws to hold the frame up. There were several of those we had to cut off with the saw, and of course that gouged out the wall pretty good. So there's a lot of patching on this side with that Bondo, but it smooths right out. You never know it was ever done when it's all said and done. So that little area there is missing a piece because that cabinet was there, but I've got a piece that I can put in there, so we'll replace that with that. And this out here, we're still working on getting it spackled and sanded and so on and so forth. I use the oscillating sander to go over those areas where the paper was falling off, and with that 40 grit sandpaper on there, it just knocks those loose areas right off of there. Anything that's loose, when you sand it with that, it's coming off of there. So that gets you down to good stuff right quick, and I think that's the way to do it. And we haven't decided exactly how we're going to paint this out here, but right now I'm just getting it sanded, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so I've got that old wall cleaned up. I took all the plywood off it and pulled all the nails and the adhesive and kind of cleaned it up so I could get it in here and just see what I'm going to have to make. I know I've got to make a wall going this way at the end of the tub, so I'll have to get the tub in here and see if this wall is the right height. Probably isn't. Figure out everything I've got to do to build a little enclosure for the tub. Then I've got my area marked out on the floor that I need to cut out to move that recessed area over for the new trap. So that's my next job, is cut that hole out, and then I'll get the tub in here and see what I've got to do to modify this wall or build a new wall, whatever I have to do. So that's my next job. Okay, so just doing a little trial fit of the new tub, and you can see that this new tub is longer than the old tub at this point here, because the other one took off at an angle here and then went in. So this wall is going to have to be shortened to accommodate this here, and then we'll build another wall coming up here, and then the base, it looks like it's going to be about the right height. If it's just off there and it's just off there, so I'm going to try using that same height first and cut that wall down and rebuild that base to fit this tub. It needs to come out long on both ends and have an opening in the middle for the trap. So we'll rebuild this wall and rebuild that base, and then do a trial fit and see how it looks. So there's the old base with the notch out for the angled shower wall, and the new one will come out about the same length, but just the notch in the middle, and then we'll have this extended full length on this side to support the tub. So we just have to modify that one a little bit. Okay, so here I'm trial fitting my tub and this first wall, which I had to modify. I had to make it just a little bit shorter, 2 3/8 shorter is what it turned out to be. So I just basically cut these boards off, used my Craig jig to reattach it all together. And now I'm trial fitting it. As it happens, the height of this tub works out perfect to the height of the old tub, so I don't have to change the height of this wall, which is one thing I didn't know. I had to cut this off a little bit because I moved it back a little bit, and I did have to cut this off a little bit to allow for this wood that I put in there, that underlayment. So I've got my new platform built. I've got it marked out on the floor where it goes there, and now I can measure my exact width that I want for this wall that goes across here and get that wall built. Then we can start getting it all put together. I do need to get in here and tidy up some of this plumbing and electrical in here. Check all the taped wires. I know I need to reconnect some proper colored wires to this mess here that goes to the water heater. So I'll get all that done, get all that stuff tidied up and set down, and then start going back together with this. Okay, so here is the tub area, shower area, all roughed in and ready to be skinned with plywood. It'll be skinned with that, actually I'm using leftover underlayment to skin it with. And then on the front side, in the front of the tub, and even this side over here, I'll put some of that plastic, the same plastic that I'm going to put up at the top up here, because the surround is only 59 inches tall, which leaves me about 6 or so inches shy of the top. I don't think this original ceiling will be a problem once the other skylight piece is in, but naturally you have to do something with the walls. So I bought that plastic from Home Depot and the adhesive to put it on with, and we'll put plastic up at the top around the surround and below the tub and up this wall, and then I may have to come up with a little corner piece or something to dress that out. I've got backing at 65 inches from the floor for my shower, so it has something to bolt onto. I've got this 1/4 inch plywood rabbited into my frame here and glued and stapled for backing for my faucets. And then I went ahead and put another piece of backing across here, kind of as an afterthought, but that's where the tub, the edge of the tub goes, so you want to have something there to put a rivet through if you need to. And I will still have room well, I think the way to do this is to skin it only up to here, and then I'll still be able to reach in here to get my hook my trap up, because this needs to be skinned complete before I actually set the tub. Worst case scenario, I can get to that trap through the hole in the bottom until I put that pan back on there. So got it covered one way or the other. Hopefully I can get through it from in here. If not, we'll crawl into the motorhome again and do it that way. But I used my crank jig to do the pocket holes on all this. Almost exclusively really in out here. I used just regular screws going in, but to put the frame together, that's all done with pocket holes from the back side, and that worked out real well. And then everything's, I even used the pocket hole jig to for the ones going down through the bottom on that piece there. You can see it down there. Just make and to attach it to the wall over here. I use the pocket jig there too. And I put a little construction adhesive in there. This thing is solid as a rock, so we're good to go. As I'm getting ready to sheet this stuff, I noticed that these staples here, that wood is just kind of gone away. So those staples are not going to hold that. So I've got a little scrap piece of wood. I'm going to glue that onto the back of that deal there, and then I'll throw some staples in it too. And just to strengthen that up a little bit. Okay, first skin is on. And one more trial fit of the tub. Couldn't get much better than that. Now I just got to skin this front side and put my plastic around the top, and I'll be ready for the surround. Well, actually, I'll be ready to hook up my trap first, and then I'll be ready for the surround. Okay, and there it is, all skinned. Ready for my plastic pieces. And then I can set the tub and put the surround in. Okay, just finishing up with the tub test. Got the tub in there, got the trap hooked up. Had it filled all the way up with water to check the seal around the tub, and now I'm draining it out to check the seal of the trap. Everything looks good and dry. I've got all my panels that extend above the surround in place, and the ones on the wall that we decided to put in, those are all in place. So now we're ready to think about that surround. Okay, so I put some block in there, put some plywood down first, of course, to protect the tub, but just to make sure that bottom was sitting flat against the floor in there. And I've got the surround in here. This thing just folds up basically, so it'll be easy enough to set in there, but I want to set it in there and trial fit it. And then I've got to figure out what to do about this situation here. They've got this along the sides and along the bottom, and I think I need to put a little piece of wood in there, because that's if I put some rivets in there, that's what it's going to go through, and that won't give it any support at all if I don't put something in there. I tried to look it up online, and went to a website that was supposed to have information on it, and I got hacked with that Microsoft pop-up text scan. So it took me a day to fix my computer on that. Well, it took me a couple hours really. But anyway, I got that straightened out. So now I'm not going to go back on there and see what they say. No information on it at all. I bought it off of Amazon. No information on Amazon about it. No install instructions, text sheet, anything like that. So I'm just going to go kind of by how the old ones was installed with two-sided tape, and probably put some rivets in it, and I think it'll be fine. Okay, so as I'm fitting this surround, I notice I do have one little problem. If I push this all the way back in there, bad lighting, I push this all the way back in there into the corner, then I've got a gap down here. It's tight over here, but I've got a gap over here. And that's obviously because this tub is not sitting perpendicular to that back wall. So I could raise the tub up that amount on this end, on the bottom, and along this edge. Which, I mean, that's doable. It's no big deal. I could measure it and do it. But I've already got my trap all set, and there's not a lot of room to play with there, and I'm afraid I'm going to put something in a bind if I try to lift that up. And as light as all that plastic stuff is, I want it just in a natural position so it doesn't tend to crack, because this stuff is made so light to begin with. So I'm just going to put this in as it lies, and we'll have a little extra thick caulk at the bottom. I don't think anybody will ever notice it. If they do, they can get a hold of the union, I guess, and complain about it. But I'm going to live with it. I think that's the lesser of two evils. Okay, so working on this idea of filling in these channels here, I've done some measuring, and these channels up here will fill in just about right with some 1/4-inch plywood. That's just shy of how thick that is. With the adhesive on there, it'll be really perfect. So I didn't have anything long enough to do just one piece all the way down. So I can 2 24 inches into 10 inches. That'll do these side pieces, and that's just scrap from where I did the floor repair in the bathroom. So didn't have to buy anything new there. Now on the bottom, you've got the flange of the tub that sticks out. So that would make this 1/4-inch plywood too thick, but it actually makes this 1/5-inch underlayment plywood just about perfect. And I've got plenty of that underlayment left, so I cut some 1 1/8" strips on that, and I need 2 20s for the side and a 30 along the back. So that solved my issue there. Now I was looking at this tub a little further, and I remembered that raising this up that 1/2 inch or so, I'll measure it, but that I need to make this come out correctly with the surround actually won't be a problem, because I actually lowered this block here a little bit in order to get it to fit that tub the way it is. So what I can do, this whole pipe will just raise up a 1/2 inch, no problem. So it won't put anything in a bind. So what I will do, I will raise this tub up. I'll measure it first, put the surround back in there and measure exactly what I need. And then I'll raise this end of the tub up by that much, which will make it perpendicular to that back wall, and that will solve my problem. The only thing is I've got to take out the trap and all that, but that's really not that big of a deal. I'd rather have that fit nice. And it's actually 97 degrees out today, which is a little warm for that adhesive anyway. It's kind of at the upper end of where you're supposed to be messing with this stuff. So I think I'll correct this tub right now, take the trap back out, make my correction there, refit the surround, and then in the morning I will glue all that stuff in there. I was planning on using double-sided tape, but I think that adhesive would be better, and I actually called Loctite on this stuff. This is the stuff that I used for that plastic that I put on the walls in there in the bathroom, FRP adhesive, which is what it suggests. And I wasn't sure if that would work with this ABS material or not. This is an ABS material that this surround is made out of. So I called Typemon. They've got a number on there you can call them. And I actually had a human being answer the phone, and very nice, knowledgeable guy. And he actually said for the inside of a motorhome, he would recommend a polyester adhesive that they have for the higher temperature, because this is only good to about 120 degrees. But I don't really think that I'm going to deal with temperatures higher than that in here anyway. And really, to be honest, once this thing is riveted in, I can get 3 or 4 rivets around each edge of this tub. Once I get that plywood behind here, in that channel, I can get 3 or 4 rivets, on each side, and that thing's not going to be going anywhere. So I'm really not worried about it coming unadhered because of the temperature. And he assured me that this would not affect the ABS material. So I think that's a done deal. That's what we'll do there. And we'll get that glued up in the morning after I correct this tub tonight and get it all squared away. Okay, so I've got the tub back out, and I've got my platform loosened up so I can shim it up. I measured that at this 24-inch mark, but the tub sits back here, so I need to see what it is at 20 and a half. This is the thickness at 24 inches, so I can cap this top with that. Okay, that should work for that. I'll have to figure out exactly how to do that, but that should work for that. But as far as shimming this base up, I can use these door shims to shim it up and get an angle, get it all supported. But I've got to figure out exactly how high to go at this point, because it's going to be a little lower than it is here. So that was 24 inches. Okay, so there's my mock-up. I've got my boards that I measured right on the 24-inch mark. Here's the 20 and a half inch mark, and then it goes down to 0 at that end. And actually, I can use those same boards there. There's not that much difference. I just want to be sure. I just can barely get them in right on the edge, and then I'll gradually fill in with shims to keep it solid on the way down. Probably glue them and screw them. So that'll work. Okay, so we get the platform tilted up, straightened out. Now I've got this area here. For some reason or other, they had that cut on a bevel. Maybe the original tub maybe had to have that bevel on to make it fit. But I'm looking at this tub here, and that front lip, I mean, there's a little bitty radius right there, but other than that, it's just flat. So I will, I need to raise that up by that same amount. So I will cut a board on a 45 and put it in there, and then I'll shim the top of that, and that'll take care of that. Okay, so now I'll trowel fitting this surround again. My corners go in nice and tight in the corners up there, and my gap is not bad. It's got maybe 1/8 of an inch variance at the most, so that's very cockable, and that'll turn out real nice. So time to get the trap reconnected, and we'll glue this thing up in the morning. Okay, so here is the tub and the surround. Got the skylight, inside part of the skylight back on there. Tub and surround is all in. I put those little plastic rivets around the edges just to give a little extra security there. But it all looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way it turned out. There's once I get all my trim in, I will go around and caulk the some of these areas with the Reno around the bottom, top of the tub, bottom of the enclosure, with the white bathroom caulk, and those areas in the corner there, that kind of stuff. I need to find a corner piece for this here and get that glued on there. But got my pans put on underneath. I'm ready to put my tires back on, but it's just too hot right now. It's right about 100 degrees out there, so that's too hot. So I'll get those tires put on in the morning, and then I'll get started building this this bathroom cabinet. So all in all, real happy with the way it turned out. Okay, so here's the old cabinet. I plan to make the new cabinet kind of pretty much the same. It's got to house the water heater in this section here. The original cabinet just had a solid piece of plywood on the front of that. This one will have a panel that pulls off, magnetically hooked on there, and we'll move the toilet paper holder from inside this door, which doesn't work worth a darn. We'll just put a regular toilet paper holder on that panel, and that'll double as a handle to pop it off of there. And then the other thing that we're going to do is our PEX manifolds. They're actually called mini blocks. Will be down in the bottom section of this. Looks like I've got plenty of room there. It gets a little tight over here because of this heater outlet, which will have to be moved over to the right, but I actually have room to do that. And then we'll just make our door for this bottom one be a little removable panel too. Probably start like right here and right here, so it'll look the same on both sides, and that'll just pop off too, magnetically attached. So that'll make an easy place to get in and turn your individual circuits off, or do whatever else you might have to do in there. So it looks like it's going to work out okay. I just need to basically replicate this cabinet with a few minor changes. I'll have to put a piece of wood down in here, kind of at an angle, so these will end up sloping up just a little bit, so that you can get the key to turn them on and off, or hook the pipes up, whatever. And these just they come with brackets that they just snap on. So that just takes a little piece of wood down there, screw that to the wood, and then those just snap into that. So that all comes with the mini block. So pretty handy. The only thing I didn't particularly care for is they don't make any 1/2-inch supply fittings for these. They're all 3/4. So I had to get 3/4 L, because everything has got to aim to the back in order to get it hooked up. There's just not enough room to do it any other way. And then I got to reduce it down to 1/2-inch. So I got a little bit of plumbing on each one of these. Not too bad, but it would be nice if they made a 1/2-inch supply connector on those for motorhomes. Yeah, it would be great, because that's really all you need is 1/2-inch. So anyway, this should work. I'll get that cabinet built, and then we'll get all our plumbing going back together. Okay, got the face frame for the cabinet built today, and I've got my mini blocks sit in here to see how they were going to fit, and it will work, but it is very close. I didn't even think about that gas line, and it is just right there, but it will work. It won't be real easy to see, but it'll work, and you will be able to shut it off. So that's all that really matters. It is tight. So really, I came out here to put the rest of my boards that go in here in here to support the water heater and the shelves and so on and so forth. But I quickly realized it was going to be a whole lot easier to plumb up these mini blocks in here before I got all that stuff in my way. So I just went ahead and connected all my PEX. I've still got my 2 lines to go to the water heater, routed roughly where they need to go to hook up to the water heater, and my 2 lines to go to the lab. Just running free there, but everything's hooked up to the mini block, and so I'll be able to go ahead and put the rest of my cross pieces in there and get my water heater slid into place and installed, and then I can put the rest of this, put the countertop back on and so on and so forth. And I think I'll take some of this plastic that I use on the wall and stuff, and I'll put that down in this area down in here, give it a little bit of waterproof protection. And I went ahead and cut a slant on this one here so that it would be able to drain off of there. So I'll cut some of that plastic and glue that in there, and I'm going to glue it onto this side here too. That'll kind of make that not 100% waterproof, but definitely help it out a little bit. So it's coming right together, and those mini blocks are not going to be easy to get to, but you can get to them. I probably, well, see, I couldn't raise that one up there because of the water heater. It's got to go where it's got to go. So could have raised that one up, but that wouldn't really matter. This one here is actually going to be harder to get to because the toilet's in the way too. But if you lay it on the floor, you can see them and you can operate the key, although I'm going to tie a string onto that little eyelet in that key, because if you drop that down behind there after everything's together, it's going to be hard to get out of there. So I'll tie a string on there so it doesn't disappear, because it's easy to drop them, turn those valves on and off. Not that it's something you have to do very often. Any of this stuff shouldn't, or probably, hardly ever have to get in there and do it, but just in case you do, it is available, and it'll work. So okay, so we got the water heater installed, which I thought was going to be about a 10-minute job, and that turned out to be probably a couple hours, just because of the fact that there's so little room to deal with here. This bypass setup is actually made to screw this in, screws directly into the water heater, but that would bring my hoses coming way out here, not near enough room. So you've got to use an angle on there, and the problem with that is your hose that connects the 2 valves for your bypass is only so long. You can get them longer, but at any rate, my position that I needed to put those in order to hook my hoses up, I had to make my own bypass hose. So you see it there, that blue one with all the angles in it. Normally I like to stay away from putting any angles in PEX, but something like a bypass hose, it doesn't matter. And that was really my only option there. So all the other hoses, no right angles in there at all. Yeah, they're all natural bends. So we got that in there. Took me about probably 8 tries of fitting that water heater in and taking it back out and making a little adjustments and getting my valves in just the right place. I had to move this. I think I moved this twice at least in order to make room for that bypass hose. And you can see that, your gas line, your other water line over here, everything has to just sneak in there, and we just got room. We got room, but just barely. And we'll be able to operate all these valves, again, just barely, but it will work. So that's the water heater in. Now I can go do the plumbing in the back of the rig for all the drain down valves and so on and so forth. Water pump. Okay, so getting ready to do the outside plumbing. I've kind of got everything laid out here. You can see according to my plan there, I just got to drop out of the freshwater tank down into the strainer, the pump, the check valve. And then the only thing that I've really got inside my little box that I'm going to build out there is a hot drain, a cold drain, and the city water drain. So I've got that all laid out here. My pump with my strainer on it there, and then on the outlet part, I've got these flex hoses, which is what they recommend. The pump manufacturer recommends. I've got my check valve hooked to that, so that's all ready to go. And the only thing I've really got on that box are these here, two drain valves and your city water fill. So that doesn't need to be a very big box. So go out here and see what we've got on the area out here. We have got our 2 lines coming in from the inside. They'll go just across that top section there, and I can bring them right down into this area here, which this is where my little box will be. I'm just going to make it 10 inches wide. It'll be 10 inches deep. My drain valves and stuff will go right here at the bottom. My pump will go right on the side over here, which will leave me plenty of room over here for my freshwater hose and my electrical cable. You can see down here in the bottom of this, originally, of course, this was made for your to drain your tanks, your black water and gray water tanks. But it must have got moved at some time or other, because they had to hack out this other area here. And they just kind of hacked it out. But now I'm wondering if maybe they had to do a repair on these lines, and maybe that's why they tore up that bathroom floor. So I suppose that's a possibility. Anyway, I think I'm just gonna cut another piece of wood to put in there, cut a circle out of it the right size, cut this out a little bit bigger because it's actually not quite big enough the way it is. Probably cover that with a piece of sheet metal and then rivet it down and just make that a little bit cleaner deal, because I've got the little plastic plugs that fit in there, but the way it is, stuff's going to fall out of there. So I'll make that a little bit cleaner, and then we'll build this 10 by 10 box here, mount the pump to the side of it. You'll still be able to get to the pump easily and the strainer, and that should do it. I'll just use a piece of 3/4 plywood or 5/8 plywood or whatever I have for the pump side, and a piece of sheet metal for the front. I can fold it over on the brake, make it a little stiffer, and that should take care of it. Okay, so I've got myself a piece of plywood cut there. That's actually a piece that I salvaged off of the old dinette. And I've got my plug for the bottom of the floor there, and I've just traced around it, and I'll finish tracing around it when I get it out of there, and cut myself a hole there, and then I'll rivet this to the floor. I'd like to put a piece of sheet metal on top of it. We'll see if I got one big enough, so we'll try that. Okay, I got my piece of wood cut for that, but I've got a better idea to cover it. I'm going to use some more of this plastic. I've got some left. Got a plenty big enough piece there, and I'll glue that on top of there, and that'll make a nice little waterproof and easily cleanable surface for that. Okay, so here I am starting to build my box for the plumbing that's outside here. Water pump's mounted on the side there. These hoses here will go through those holes there, and I'll have just my water fill and my hot and cold drain down lines there. That's about all that I'm going to have out here. The original one had water pump switch, a bypass valve, wash station, in addition to what I'm putting in there, plus a light and a paper towel holder and a cable TV hookup. So I don't need all that stuff. My box will be much smaller, but that'll leave me all this room over here to for my freshwater hose and all that. So here's this a little further down the line. Pump there. This will be the city water hookup, the cold water drain, and the hot water drain. And there's my little cover to go on the front of it where those lines will come through. I'll just paint that black, and if I can find my label maker, I'll put some labels on it. Okay, found the label maker. Got those labeled, got those running down through there. Got my pressure regulator on there, ready to go. So this thing is pretty much all done. Water pump's all hooked up. My strainer. My only regret is that my check valve is right inside of here. And if I ever have to change that check valve, I've got to pull this whole thing apart to do it. I should have put the check valve out here where I could get to it. Didn't think about it till it was all done. But at any rate, other than that, I'm happy with it. Everything's nice and clean. And frees up this area over here for storage instead of just that pump flopping around there. So now the only thing I got left is my kitchen sink to hook up, and I can put water in this thing and check out and make sure I have no leaks. Okay, so we finally made it into the kitchen. Got my new faucets laying out here, the drinking water faucet and the regular faucet. And this one here, I should have measured it. That thing is just barely gonna clear that cabinet. It will clear, but just barely. Never even thought about that. Hoses are plenty long to reach all the way down to the bottom. So I just need to terminate my water lines here, but I want to put in some blocking that I can clamp those water lines off to and make them stick straight up out of there and just be rigid so they're not flopping all over the place. So that's my first job. Well, my first job is to cut that part of that bottom out of there, and this stuff is way too light anyway. It's like 16th inch plywood. So when I get all done with this thing, I'll stick a piece of 1/4 inch plywood in there and stiffen that up a little bit. So now I just got to block that off and get those hoses attached, get them terminated. Then we can install the rest of the stuff. Should be pretty simple. Okay, so here's my bracket to hold my 90s there. That'll go right in there like that, and those 90s will screw to the side of it, and then I'll screw this on. I'll need to screw these on first and then screw that to the wall, so we'll see how that works. Okay, and there it is installed, son of a gun. It actually worked. And I just got to cut those off and terminate them, and we're ready to patch this floor up and install the faucet. Okay, there's my new bottom piece. Now we'll see if I can get it in there. All right, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, got the kitchen sink all dialed in there. It's got a pull down faucet and your drinking water faucet. There's the water filter down there, and that you can pull out and disconnect those lines real easily without crawling under there. So that's all good. Problem is, I went to turn on the water. Didn't have any leaks into the sink or anything, but in here I had a mess. I've got several lines leaking at my fittings where it hooks up to the mana block. It's leaking out. And then my my shower valve is leaking behind where that hooks up. The shower valve, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's just the fittings I bought were just no good for that valve. They should have been, but they weren't. So I'm going to hook that up with flex lines instead, with a gasket that'll seal on there. And then I've got some shark bite fittings, because that's all I can get, with some 1/2-inch pipe thread on it. So I'll re-terminate those lines with this, and then hook up the faucet with that, and that should take care of that problem. I think on my mana block, I may have to crimp some of those back a little further to give myself a little bit of play in this nut, so that I can slide the O-ring in better. I used the mana block on my house, and I had absolutely no problem at all. And on this, I've got several leaking. So I think it's I think it's me. I don't think it's the mana block. I've got some silicone grease, which they say is okay to use to make that O-ring slide in there better. And I'll just reattach those. I may have to recrimp some of these if my nut's a little bit too tight, because I know you kind of have to slide that O-ring part in there and then tighten your nut up. It just seals on the O-ring. So we'll try all that. And then the other issue I had was those drain down valves outside, which they look pretty, they look cute, but they leak like crazy. So I'm going to put some angle stops on there. It won't be as pretty, but it'll work. So we'll get all that done, and then we'll come back and see how we're doing. Okay, so I'm slowly working my way through all these leaks. I got the problem solved behind the shower by putting those hoses on there instead of those 90-degree swivel fittings. They just leak like crazy. So that took care of that. I'm still having trouble with my manifolds, although it seems like I'm slowly starting to get it figured out. I had this one especially was just leaking like crazy. That's my kitchen sink cold. Was just leaking like crazy, and several other ones I was having trouble with leaks too. This one here was leaking, and I noticed when first of all, I put silicone grease on to make that O-ring slide in there easier. But I was still having problems. I noticed that if I kind of moved the hose around as I tightened that nut, that it seemed to, this was the first one I noticed it on, stop the leak. Then my drain down valve was leaking too. Did the same thing on it, stopped the leak. Though I tried to do that on this one over here, but you can see I just don't have any room to get in there and swing that hose. And there was this brace going across here, which was really limiting my motion. So I took that brace out of there temporarily, where I could get in there better and grab that hose to kind of move it around in kind of a circular motion as I tighten the nut. And hallelujah, that thing finally has stopped leaking. So now I've got 2 more colds to get on there, and then I can check the rest of the hots. And then the only thing I'll have left is the lavatory to hook up. So looks like I'm making progress, but man, when I did my house in PEX, I used PEX manifolds. Didn't have a second of trouble. They all went together, no leaks, no problem at all. So I thought that'd be a good system for this. One of the problems I have here is the space is so confined. I would have been better off to leave the water heater out and just hook my hot and cold lines together until I got this all straightened out. But of course, I had no idea I was going to have this much trouble. So I just put it all together. Of course, the beauty of this system is that you can turn these circuits on one at a time until you get everything straightened out, which is what I'm doing now. I've got my first 2 circuits on. These next 2 cold ones are off. I've got these two on. This one I can't turn on because it's hooked through a faucet to that other cold one that's not tested yet. And then this is my lav, so I can't turn that on, of course, until I get these hooked up. But the beauty is of this type of system is you can turn each circuit off separately. If you have a problem down the road with the faucet, you can just turn that faucet off if you need to. Or, you know, if your toilet's got a problem, you can just turn the toilet off. So that's a good feature about it. Okay, down to my last leak here. You can see it dripping out the bottom there, even though it's shut off up here. And these also have leaked from here. Okay, that's the type of fitting I'm going to use to replace those faulty valves. You know, all metal. It doesn't have the plate to bolt to the deal, which is unfortunate, but that'll just have to sit in there, and it'll have a 3/8 copper tube coming down through the floor from my drain. So should work out okay. I wish I could find one with a plate on it, but I couldn't. There it shows those valves leaking, both of them. This one hadn't been disturbed. This one I just pulled out of the mounting. I'll have to cut my my clamp off and reclamp the good valve in there. Okay, so here's how that turned out with those new valves, and I think I actually like the way it looks better than the valves with the flanges on there, so it worked out real good. So that takes care of all my leaks. Okay, so there's the sink and the countertop installed back again. I've got a gap over here because the old tub was an inch wider than this tub, so I'll have to make a special little piece to fill that in. No big deal. It's all plumbed up as far as plumbing goes. Now I've got to get this cabinet back together. I'm going to reuse the original drawer. There'll be the original cabinet. This was just solid, so I'm going to put a removable panel on there that the toilet paper holder will actually hang onto that. That'll be magnetically attached, so you can pop it off to get to your bypass valves in there. And then there'll be two more panels down below that'll just attach the same way with magnets, so you can get to your block manifolds to control those if you need to. This section over here will be similar to what it was before, but I want to make it to where all this stuff will just pull right out of there. Before it was all nailed in. So there'll be a 1/4 inch piece of plywood on the bottom. I've got a 3/8 lip here to cover that up and retain it. There's also a piece of wood that I'm gluing in here to retain this side piece that'll go up here, which will just be a piece of 1/5 inch underlayment, scraps from my flooring underlayment. I'll put this piece here at the top, and it'll capture that piece of wood that runs up this side, so that'll go in there like that. The piece of wood on the side will go up in there, come against this here, then my plywood will go in, which will retain that. This will retain that. Then I'll put a little shelf in here because I don't want this kind of sticks out a little far. I could have done a better job on that. But now that I got no leaks, I'm not gonna bother with it. So anyway, I'll just put another little barrier here and a shelf going back on top, which is kind of the way it was before actually. But that will also, there'll be a little strip of wood across that 1/4 inch plywood, and that'll retain that'll retain that shelf. So everything will just lift out of there. No screws. In case you ever need to work on anything down in here, that'll make it a lot easier. Well, my wife's just about got the interior of this all painted out. It's looking good. Kind of doing the blue walls and the white trim. Of course, the cabinet doors are not in here right now. They'll be painted white too. That's probably her next project. My next project is going to be trying to shampoo these ceilings. There's a few areas that have got some water spots in there from when the roof was leaking before we got it. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we'll try it and see. Won't hurt to clean it up a little bit anyway. There's the bathroom cabinet. It's been painted. I think she's just got one coat on that so far. And the little area for the medicine, where the medicine cabinet goes, it's all in there. So that's coming along. The bedroom's pretty much all painted, ready to go. So my next project is going to be shampooing that ceiling, and then we'll start in on the valances and the blinds, getting those installed. So it's coming along. Okay, one of the more interesting things I had to figure out on doing this renovation was the blinds. Most of them are pretty easy because these here go way up behind these cabinets. So you can't really get to the latching mechanism. Blinds that were in there had the cord that came down, and you had to attach it with a screw or whatever. And so they didn't have the big body down here. It was just one little thin flat body, and the way they got them up there before is they just screwed right through that into the board that's up there. But with this type of blind, which I much prefer, not having the extra cord to worry with, it's got to snap into these snaps, and that you tuck it into the other side, and then you have to bring it over, and you actually have to, they don't just snap in. You've got to take a screwdriver or something and push on that little clip and get it to snap over. There is no way that you're going to get this thing mounted. First place, you probably couldn't even get these little brackets screwed in up there. It'd be a nightmare trying to do it. And then to get these snapped in, I just don't think that you would be able to do it. So what I decided to do is make a board. Luckily, I have room at the end of these blinds to make this board long enough where I can get some screws in there on both ends. So I've made up a board that'll fit up in there, and pre-attached my blind to the board. So now once I attach my board up in there, done deal. And I've put this side up here already, of course. The way I did it, I just cut these to fit. First of all, I marked these things with this board shoved all the way over to the left, and then I marked my window location on the board and centered the blind onto the window location and put these where they got to go. On this end over here, I've got some wires in this one corner, so I kind of marked that out, make sure I wouldn't put a screw through those wires. And so now I should be able to just, according to Hoyle, put this up in here. I've cut these two deals here where I can up there and temporarily hold this up while I get it screwed into place. Okay, there's that one. There's that got to make sure that I'm already all the way over to the left, or just look at it and make sure it's lined up on the window, which I think it is. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So now all I've got to do is get in there, tighten those screws that I've already got started in that board, and installed. Now these also will get valances. It's like all my other ones. Board coming down here would just be a piece of 3/4, which is off of the original setup, and then I'll clad them in that cedar. And for putting those up, I'm just going to do pocket holes in the side of those boards, and I'll screw them to the wall. It'll be real easy. So this thing that I thought was going to be an absolute nightmare is really not a problem at all. The two on the sides here, they didn't even have those screwed to the ceiling, so I won't either. But the way I'll do that is also pocket holes through the valance, and those is one solid unit where the valance actually will hold the blind up. So those will be easy too. Once I get the new valance set up, made on it, that'll just go up there and screw right to the wall. It'll be real easy. Got the rest of the blinds already in. Probably a horrible picture with the glare, but there's the valance on that one, and line just pulls down. These blinds really work good. They work better than the ones I have in my house that I paid a small fortune for. These were like $400 for all of them, I think. And see if I can get one that's out of the sun. Here we go. There's the cedar. Just lined it with cedar instead of upholstering it, and we'll put cedar for a headboard there too, and be like a little theme or whatever. So anyway, these are going very easily. And looking at that video I shot of putting these blinds up, I realized that I had cut off the top part of the picture, but this is what you're dealing with, is the blinds going up behind this cabinet here, and they go way up in there. If you can see that, the blind is actually way up behind that cabinet, and there is just no way in the world that you're going to get that up there and twist that blind into position and then hook that little hook. So that's the solution to that, and that's an easy way to do it. Shoot, that's going to go in real easy. And yeah, these valances here, I've got plenty of room to stick that up there. I'll screw the top with a little angle bracket. I've got plenty of room over here to do that. The side will come down with a couple of pocket screws into the wall, and once the piece of 3/4 is up there, then I can trim it out with that cedar. So this is going to go relatively easy. Okay, so here's how we're doing the valances and those blinds that go up behind the cabinet there in the living room. We got pocket screws that'll go on the inside, and on the outside there'll be one screw at the top through that bracket, And once those pocket screws are screwed on, then we can go ahead and cover that with the cedar, and that'll cover this up. I'm going to paint the inside of these black so you won't be able to see it, and that'll be a real easy solution to that. Okay, so we've got to this point here. This part of the living room is done. That part of the kitchen, all this back here is done. The bathroom, the bedroom is all done. Really, all I have left is this area over here, and I decided to start in this corner over here because that would give me the least backfilling I had to do. Because every time you come to an area like that, you've got to finish or put these pieces in before you can continue down this way. You've got to put these pieces in. So that's like backfilling you have to do, and you just have to figure out where to cut this first board, and so you can continue on. So I had to backfill here. I had to backfill this little area here and this over here. But if I'd have gone the other way, I would have had to do this area here would have had to been backfilled, which actually would have been easy. I would have had more backfilling to do. My only problem with doing it this way is when I get over to this slide, I have no way to put it under the slide, putting it together in the normal way. So I think what I'm going to have to do is take this little border board that I put out just to kind of keep my border there out of there, and slide those pieces together in the groove, which I think that will work, but it may be difficult. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's my next job. Finish filling this in, and then see how that slide's going to work out. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, so there's the vinyl plank part of the flooring all in, and this part over here that I was a little worried about getting in was no problem at all. I'm a believer in this Smart Core flooring that Lowe's has. It's a little expensive. It's about $350, $380 a square foot, something like that. So it's for enough to do this motorhome as much as I'm doing in that material. It's about $600. But the stuff really goes in nice, and I think it's going to hold up real good too. So probably worth it to spend a couple extra bucks. I was able to just slide that last piece right down, just already pre-engage it with the notch in the previous piece, and just slide it all the way down one after another and put it right in there, no problem. So that worked out real good. Okay, so got all the carpet done on the slide. Got all the carpet done out front here. Didn't turn out too bad. You can kind of see my seams a little bit there in the corner. But I think I can live with it okay. I think probably once everything is all together, you won't really even notice that. So next step is to get my little quarter round baseboard around all this flooring. I put a little bit bigger baseboard around the bed already because I had a little bit of a wide gap there, but it's just the way the flooring worked out in here. There was no way to get it to a 1/4 inch or even a 1/2 inch. It was more like 5/8 or so. So we put some 3/4 wood around there to hide that. The rest of it I'll just take my 5/8 quarter round. Of course, that gets that carpeted strip over there. And so we'll get this quarter round all in there, and then I can put up my carpet around the bed and around the walls, and then my carpeting will be complete. We can get these doors installed if they're painted. I'm not sure if they're painted or not yet, but we'll get to that. And the next thing after that is going to be to get our furniture in here. But got a little bit of a problem in that the Rec Pro stuff is all supposed to fit through a 25-inch door, which or maybe it said 25 and a half. I don't know. At any rate, this is a 25-inch door, but it's got this flange that sticks out, which brings it down to 24 and a quarter, I think. So basically, I thought I could just remove that flange from in here because it had screws going around, but that's just for this part of the trim. So that doesn't really do any good. So the whole door will have to come out in order for me to get that couch in here in the box, which is what I want to do to avoid damaging it. So I'll get the quarter round all up. I'd like to go ahead and get my angle iron around this staircase and get the carpet in there also. And then the carpet will be completely done. Then I can pull that door out of there, and tomorrow when my buddies are over here to pick in our jam session, I'll try to coerce one or two of them into helping me sneak that couch through the door. And then I'll have it in here. I can just go ahead and install it. The dining stuff, no problem. I can get through the door myself. And the captain's chairs, I can get those through the door myself. So main thing is getting the couch in here. It's a little bit bulky. I don't think it weighs a great deal. I think it's probably lighter than the one I took out of here. I'm anxious to see that new Rec Pro stuff installed in here. I think it's going to look real good. Okay, so I've taken the entry door out of this, and that'll give me plenty of room to get my my new couch in the door. And I didn't really mind taking that door out because I needed to work on these hinges anyway, and I could have done it with it still mounted in the rig, but I think it might be easier to do it with it laid out here on the table. You can see I've got some wear in these hinges, and I don't know just how bad it is until I get them out of there. But I'll either have to just add washers and maybe flatten out a couple of spots in the hinges, or I may have to put some new pins in if it's worn to pins. So I'm going to go ahead and take these hinges off here and see what we've got. Okay, so on these hinges, I'm just having to cut away this little flange that they have on the end of it, and then I can pull the pin out. And most of the wear seems to just be really on this bottom part. You can see that's worn away there, and there's some extra space. So I'm just going to grind this flat and add a washer, and I think that'll take care of it. Okay, so here's a little shot of it after I got it all repaired there. And you can see I didn't even actually end up grinding away the flange. I just added enough extra washers to make up the difference in the wear that there was. So originally there's just one washer in between here, in between each spot. And like here's a good one here. You can see the original washer there. There was that much wear, so I added these two washers to take up for the wear. And the way this is, I had to grind the end off of this pin to get it out, but when it's all put together, that pin is captured by this door here. So that's a good thing. Bad thing about that is, in order to take those hinges off, You either have to do it like I did and just pull the whole thing apart at once, or the optional way to do it would be because this leaf of the hinge is actually bolted onto the screen door, you would have to, in order to get that hinge out, you would have to unscrew that, and then unscrew your hinge over here and work on it and put it back. Now you could do that easy enough with it mounted in the rig still. So I had to take this door out anyway to get my couch in, so this worked out too. And then there's a little bit of weather stripping that they put on right over the screw head, so you've got to peel that off. And there's another piece that goes down here that you have to peel off. That kind of makes up for, they can't continue this through because of the hinge, so I guess that kind of makes up for that. Anyway, I'm in the process of contact cementing those back on, and that should take care of my droopy drawer problem. And now that I'm looking at this again, I would have been much better to lay this screen door over like this and just take out one hinge at a time. That gives me access to everything in one spot. I could have taken out one hinge at a time, fixed it, put it back in, moved on to the next one. What I did is I took off all the hinges, lifted the door off the frame, and then went back with it, which, I mean, that's doable too, but that's not the way to do it, because that, this door is pretty heavy and it makes it real awkward. So much better way to do it would be to lay that frame over like I've got it there and just take off one hinge at a time. Or if you don't remove the door, you can actually do that right in place in the rig. You don't have to have the door frame out to do it. That, as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that is not true. You would have a problem. You would have a problem trying to do it in the rig, because these screws here that go through here, when they go through back here, you can see that area with the black tape on there. That black tape is on there to hold a plate in position that's back there. Well, I put the black tape on there. Without that black tape on there, those plates fall off when you take the screws out. So you would, in order to fix this door, fix those hinges, you would have to pull the door out of the frame. Because when you pull these screws out, you're going to lose that backing plate, and you won't have anything for the screws to screw into. So with this type of door, that's what you'd have to do, is just go ahead and pull the frame out. At any rate, it's done now, and that should solve my door was scraping on the bottom here. It was real hard to open. You had to kind of jerk it in order to open it. That should take care of that. Then I've got one more little problem. I've got a little break in my screen door here. So once I get this all put back together, I'll see how much room I've got between this door and the frame, and I'll come up with some sort of a little patch, rivet it on there, screw it on there, whatever I got to do to strengthen this door back up. That should take care of my door problems. Oh, we got the couch put in here yesterday while I had a little help to get it through the door, which I needed. It was just an awkward, it's not that it's all that heavy, it's just awkward. Put it through the door in the box, and then opened up the box and just kind of put it in place there. So while I've got the door out, I'm gonna go ahead and stick the captain's chairs back in there and stick the dinette stuff in there just because it'll be easier to do with the door out of there. That stuff would all fit without the door being out, but it'll be easier with it out. It gives me a couple more inches. So we'll go ahead and get that stuff stuck in there before I put the door in. Okay, got all the captain stairs just stuck in here. They're not bolted down yet. Got the dinette in here. I've got one of them unboxed and slid into place. I've got to cut my valance off a little bit where I've got it marked there in order for the cushion to fit up in there, that's kind of the way the other one was too. So I kind of half expected to do that. I've got to stop putting these in though, because they don't include any hardware to bolt them down to the floor with. So I guess I'm gonna have to make a run to the store before I can bolt those down. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and finish putting a little bit of electrical together there. I've got left to do. I've got some miscellaneous parts I've got to put on. I stuck up a couple of lights this morning, got rid of those old-fashioned ones that hang down. Put these low-profile ones in, and then I put a little reading light over here in place of the big ginormous one that was there. So it'll come together. Got my new little cup holder there. I got some floor mats coming in. Haven't got those yet. They'd probably be here today or tomorrow. And it'll all come together. The only real complaint I have about this Rec Pro furniture is no mounting hardware, which I'm sure there's people want to mount them different ways, but I think they could include a little mounting hardware with stuff. At any rate, the only other thing is that couch is a little high. It looks almost looks funny in there because it's so high. The other one was about probably the height of where that crease is on the top, on the top cushion there. It'll be all right. I'm sure we'll get used to it. The dinette's perfect height on that. That's just exactly like it should be. But it's nice that the colors match and everything. I just wish the couch was just a little bit lower. It does. It pulls out real easily, real nice. Makes a nice big bed. So once I get this all installed, I'll do a little video of pulling that out. So finished up the carpet yesterday. Got the carpet put around the walls in the bedroom, around the bed, so on and so forth. A couple little pieces at the end of the slide on each end that had to be put in there. All real easy stuff. Got the dinette mounted and the new table bracket mounted to the wall. Just had to come up with some angle brackets for the dinette set. There wasn't anything included in there to mount it, so as it turned out, I had some extras. Got the couch mounted this morning. That's fairly straightforward. It's just got a couple of strips of wood attached underneath that I'll show you here. So I'll also give you one note about installing this particular couch, which is a Recfold trifold couch. That really unfolds and makes into a bed very easily. Forgive my videography here, but the way it's mounted is these two strips underneath. There's one in front and one way back there. And me being me, I propped this up so it wouldn't fall on me and leaned way back in there underneath this couch to put those screws in. And then I put these screws in up here, which you probably can't see because I painted them black so they wouldn't show. And I did finally get it done, but it was a real booger to do. And in fact, all I had to do was put this all the way down, and then you can just go right in here and get to it from right there. Would have been real easy. So anyway, not much of a problem to install. That's all there is to making up this bed. Is you just pull it out, flip this little doodad there down, and you've got you a nice, comfortable, full-size bed there. So I really do like that trifold sofa. I do wish that the back cushions were about that height there. It would just look better in this particular rig. If you fold it up there and look at the height, you know, it matches the height of the dinette good, matches the height of the window good. It would just be better for me if it was that height, but at any rate. So the only other issue with this, when you fold this out, it doesn't actually sit on the floor here. You can push it down to the floor, but that probably puts a little bit of a bind in the mechanism. And, you know, every time you get up out of the bed, it's going to be bouncing around. So that's because this slide is not a flush slide. It's up in the air. So if you got one that's up in the air, you can just make you up a carpeted piece here. I used a 2x6 because I didn't want to fight trying to get it just in exactly the right location. And you set the bed right down on that, and now you're nice and solid, and you're not gonna damage your floor by bouncing up and down or anything like that. When you're not using this piece here, it'll just slide right under the couch there and be out of the way. So really easy. It's just a carpeted 2x6. So I think that's a good solution for that, and I'm happy with it. The dinette also very nice. Of course, they match. The seat mechanism on this is really good. You just pop that cushion off, and you can just lift that up. It's on a special hinge to get to your storage underneath. So that's nice. That works really slick. So all in all, happy with this Rec Pro stuff. I think it looks pretty good. I could have that top of that couch shortened a little bit, but really the longer it's in here, I think I'll just get used to it and I won't worry about it. If it bothers me, I can change it, but I don't think it really will. Overall, I think it looks fine. It's very comfortable. Okay, so we're getting closer here. We got all the captain's chairs remounted. Getting our doors and drawers put back into place here. I've still got to put the handles on them. That's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to make a template for doing the drawers first, and then I'll do something for the doors. Get a template made. We got the bathroom is pretty much put back together. It needs handles in there also, and of course the door, which is still being painted by my wife. And we'll get that door in there. Medicine cabinet's back in there. I bought the wrong light for above the medicine cabinet, so I've got to wait on another one of those. I bought a 120 volt. It was a 12 watt 120 volt, and I misread it as a 12 volt lamp. I think it actually came up under a 12 volt RV light search, but at any rate, I bought the wrong one, so I've got another one coming on that. Of course, I waited too long, so now I can't return the wrong one. But all the doors are up in here. We've got the glass, replacing that one that was missing the glass. And I've got some handles to put on here also. And of course, this sliding door still has to go up here. That's being painted also. So we're we're getting there. Just really the finishing touches. We've got a bunch of little switches and lights that have to be screwed back to the wall and so on and so forth. But another day or two of actual work and this thing will be done. I do still have to take care of the stains on the ceiling. I haven't done that yet. But I saw a product on actually on a YouTube video that looks like it's going to work real well. It's this Folex. So I picked up a bottle of that, and we're going to try that, and I think it's going to work. I've tried it just a little bit on the one stain over here, and it did pretty well. I only did part of that stain. I did like from here over, and I didn't let it sit on there for a long time. So I think with a little effort, I think it's going to pretty much get all those stains out of there. So get these handles and stuff put on there, and we'll be just about done with this thing.